gentlemen, this is Open Mic. We are back, and the next item here, which I'm going to ask Mr. Wagner to deal with, is the consideration, the full support displayed by the Prime Minister and his government to lay down the red carpet. Well, I touched on that already. Consideration by government to encourage foreign participation to create a marina within the swamp at Coco Dam View Fort. I think I have touched on that, not fully, but I will just take a small lead and let Mr. Wagner, because he's very familiar with that kind of thing. When I was chairman of the National Development Corporation many years ago, I had many meetings with Dr. Anthony because I really wanted to see a marina go in. And I brought in investors from Trinidad, but every one of them indicated that the tide was too strong and it rolled too much, so it was not possible. But having looked at it and revisited it, still at the back of my mind, I really feel that the Coco Dam area, which is there doing nothing, it's a big swamp area, we can easily get a developer from Trinidad, because Trinidad in more ways than one can be extremely helpful to us to dredge out that whole equipment, that whole area, and develop a nice marina. And as Mr. Wagner said, it's important to create the synergies that go with that. I mean, when one just revisits what happened at Rodney Bay, what was it? It was a big swamp full of mosquitoes. Look at it today. The Rodney Bay Marina is responsible for what has happened in there. There's no question about it. But I think right now, when you look at the number of people living in the area, we do have a lot of land left, but the saturation of people, we should be able to distribute our people so that the whole island can benefit from what goes on. The south of the island is a tremendous, when I go down there, I go there maybe every Sunday. And it's like when I've almost left St. Lucia. I don't have to take a plane to go there. As a matter of fact, I'm presently constructing a small holiday home in the area of Castles in Paradise. I'm looking forward to that tremendously, because I can go down there, spend the 2 to 3 days, and I keep the money right here in St. Lucia. Conrad.
Well, I can tell you're not the only one. I know of other people that have small little homes in the south. Some that you know very well, they go there to spend long weekends and holidays there. Well, I'm not sure that I'm an expert on marinas and on developments, but I'm confident that there are people that we can get advice from. And I think it's also very important that we understand we don't have to do this on our own. There are strategic international partners that they can help us with it, that are with us from the beginning. They will have their benefit, and if we do it right, St. Lucia and its people will have their advantage from the whole project. And providing that this is done in an environmentally responsible manner, it's a subject that's dear to me. I don't see why we shouldn't pursue this further, because I understand we're talking about the airport in a little bit. If I may lead into this, that part, the marina, could be another element that can make a bigger, better airport very, very successful. Because I understand about 2 years ago, there was talk like it had to be done now. It was on the news every day. People were voicing their opinions, and it looked like the new airport was going to get built. Then things changed. All of a sudden, it is no longer a really hot topic, even though I believe it is a very important issue as St. Lucia's tourism and also domestic travelers are concerned. And it's unfortunate that sometimes the continuity is lost when administrations change.
You know something? You are so right. Only yesterday on the news, the Prime Minister of Antigua, because they opened their new airport very soon, and he was saying that when that airport opens up, they expect to generate more traffic, and he gave the reasons. And you know, it is ironic, because what he said yesterday was that when a passenger comes in, first impression and last impression. And unfortunately, when that airport was designed, it was criticized by other people who said, well, people only pass through an airport. And that is so wrong, because they're going to be offering all kind of Wi-Fi facilities down there. I mean, and the Prime Minister of Antigua went on, and I must say, after listening to him, I was really sold on what the man was saying. Now, I know that the situation does exist where you have political differences. It was discussed that maybe what they were going to spend was too much. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But the plans were already done. And unfortunately, you know, the lockbox which they had is about 12 million US dollars. That was stopped. And that was so unnecessary because it had gone through IATA, it was there. Many people abroad questioned why it was stopped. However, the deal has been done. But I think government needs to revisit their decision, get that airport going again. Now, I have to say one thing. The present government has done something which is very good, because the departure lounge was extremely hot and irritating, and they have air conditioned it, and that's a great plus. I'm telling you, I've been down there, and I commend the government for that. But by the same token, we need to improve what we have. For instance, if you just, those of us who have been there or not been there, and you look at what Sandals has done, I mean, it's fantastic, okay? People can go in there, you can sit in a nice lounge. That's just an indication of what can be done. I mean, you know, that airport is important to the south. Between that and the road, I know the Prime Minister is giving it serious consideration, putting a road from Dennery coming up goes there. And that's important. I know we still have some issues with the taxis, but I will say one thing, at least a good percentage of the vans being used have been upgraded, and I commend them for that. Another thing I think is great, which is the 2 stopovers, I think it's Mico and Dennery, where they can look over. That's also fantastic because people can stop there, going up and do those things. But you know, the Bardell Hill remains a problem. I mean, so far so good this year, we've held out. But as the Prime Minister himself indicated, you know, the ground around the hill there is not that secure, and the problems will come again. So we really need, again, and they are investors, because it was done in Jamaica. You know, they took a road from Montego Bay to Kingston, cost 850 million US dollars. They put the tolls in. I've told the Prime Minister, he doesn't fully agree with me as far as the tolls, but I'm convinced that you can put quite a good toll on that. And I keep comparing it to what happened in Sufra. When we first built the dock down there 20 years ago, it cost $2 million. It paid for itself in a year, as far as I'm concerned. They took the money to do other things, but there's nothing wrong with that. They invested at Sulphur Springs. But you know, a tourist who comes here maybe twice or 3 times in life, paying $4 or $5, whatever the case may be, as a toll, that's nothing for them. That's pocket change. Yeah.
No, I agree with you, and our neighbor to the north is not the only one getting a new airport. As we know, there's also one to the south that is getting a new airport that will finish, I don't know what the status is.
Neighbor to the south, which is?
St. Vincent.
Oh, well that's for another time.
So I mean, I'm not so sure I share everybody's sentiment that that airlines are going to come just because you have a new airport. That is a bit simplified view, I believe, right? But there's clearly opportunity to make money in the airport if it's done properly, with rental, with outlets, being in clothing, duty-free, food and beverage, and so on. Possibly even office and meeting space if a marina and other things come there. So there's clearly opportunity there for that. I think you won't get any argument from anybody that there are difficulties at the airport, right? Being it the slipway that we don't have, that aircraft need to use the runway for taxiing, and also the other facilities. I think it is very important that we leave the church in the cemetery and don't change everything. We need to look at what we can afford, what is a practical approach, and in the process of it, not bankrupt the country or last or somebody else. Right. But I think it is high time to look at it again. It's a shame, as you said, that we lost 2 years of lost revenue and also opportunity. Yeah. You know, we could be much further ahead if they had some kind of consensus, maybe common sense. I'm obviously simplifying this whole issue that is very complicated, but I think to ignore it is not an option either. We need to revisit the issue again, and I agree with you. It's wonderful that the government improved the facilities that are there for our travelers. Yeah. But I think it's time again to look at it, what we can realistically do.
Tell me something. You worked a total of almost 20 years with Sandals Resorts, okay? And I think how long were you at the Grand for?
Sandals, I was at each of the hotels here about 5 years.
Yeah. So you know the area very well, you know? Now, you know, there's been an ongoing dispute, or should I say, concerning the extension of Sandals, the overwater suites, and the Beaches Hotel. What is your take on the overwater suite? Should that go ahead? How do you and what would this mean to St. Lucia?
Well, you're putting me on the spot here,
No,
right? Because the environmentalist in me,
Uh-huh.
which is 50% of me, says no.
Yeah.
Right? I said leave the beach the way it is,
Yeah.
and don't give it away and build it up.
Mm.
Right? The hotelier says, let's go ahead and do it. Clearly, Sandals knows better than me what is good for them, and they'll pursue that. I believe eventually these overwater suites will come. I would be very surprised if they did not eventually materialize. I think if they get one, maybe I can build one or two where I am eventually
But without
as a
cutting you
president.
short,
But
what is being said from the Sandals group is that in the Maldives, again, it's all competition. Okay, you're looking for high end. I mean, one would have thought that a hotel on close to a beach is sufficient, but then people want to go. You have the exotic traveler.
Yes,
As
close to the beach
And
as
I just
possible.
wanted,
Sandals is clearly gonna put a whole new dimension to this thing. And there's something else that I think we should not underestimate. The public relations and the marketing value from these 24 overwater bungalows, or 18 or whatever it is at the end, will be tremendous and will be millions and millions for St. Lucia. If nothing else, from that point of view, I tend to think it's a neat idea. Because just like we had tremendous exposure with Jade Mountain and the way it's photogenic, the way the pictures appear everywhere, the same thing will happen with these overwater suites. I guarantee we're going to get millions and millions of dollars of exposure. Now, they're not going to be all staying at Sandals. Clearly, one out of every 1,000 will stay with me,
right,
or Sanovnik or somebody else.
I think it's also important that we always look to improve the product and the quality, because TripAdvisor just released a very interesting survey that I mentioned to you before the show.
Yes.
TripAdvisor is now the de facto source of all types of travel information. They're not just a review site, they're a research site, they're a travel agent, they're everything. They did a survey on the that I have here on my tablet, the 10 most affordable Caribbean hotspots.
Yes.
And you can imagine, of course, who was not in the top 10 most affordable.
Yes.
St. Lucia was nowhere there. We were actually in the other category of the top 10 most expensive. We were ranked as the 8th most expensive destination. For a family of 4, they did a survey, and I think a cost of a week or thereabout for a family of 4 to St. Lucia flight included was about $7,600. Now, what is important is not just where we ranked, but who was behind us. Barbados was about $900 cheaper, and that is one of our major competitors. Jamaica was about $3,000 cheaper.
3,000.
Yeah, about 4. It was the second most affordable destination in the Caribbean. Jamaica. Puerto Rico was the most affordable. Trinidad was 3rd. Bahamas was 6th. Aruba was 9th, and these were the most affordable. Even Grenada was about $1,000 cheaper than us. So you look at all of these things, and you realize that we are seen as a very expensive destination.
Remember the last show you said that, or somebody, we are most heavily taxed in the
Yes,
area.
I mentioned that we're also one of the most heavily taxed. So
Yeah.
I think that is why we have to be so careful, because while I'm personally happy that at least there's some sort of finality, it seems, with regards to VAT.
Right.
We know that is going to be 10% across the board. Of course, we would have liked it to remain at 8,
Yes.
which is where it was. But Barbados has gone in the opposite direction of reducing their rate of VAT to 7.5%. And this survey was done before these 2 changes were made. So now that the VAT rate has increased for hotels and food and beverage and for tours and attractions, we're certainly going to become, if not more expensive.
Yeah.
So we just have to be careful that the product quality in all respects and the service
Remains
and everything
high to
remains
match
high to
that
match.
increase.
Because we may not be able to reduce the cost of a vacation to St. Lucia in a hurry. But at least we can make sure that we ensure that the quality of the product that we're providing matches what you get elsewhere.
We must take a break. We'll be right back.